Oh, hi there! Welcome to another episode of the Okanagan Gardener and Forager channel. It's winter, so foraging opportunities are not quite as good as they might be the rest of the year, but you can still find some things. So I'm going to show you five berries you can find in the winter. One of them's poisonous. First of 5 berries that you can still find in the winter. Staghorn Sumac, scientific name Rhus typhina. There aren't any leaves to help you identify it, but what you can look for is even right on the trunk, the stem, main stem. I don't know if you can see it, but there are little fuzzy hairs. And on the branches are also these fuzzy hairs. And the berries themselves are quite fuzzy in this tight cluster of, well, berries. And what's good to do with it is you would take them and take a few of them and put them in cold water, and it makes a lemony flavored drink, kind of like, like lemonade. And you can sweeten it if you want it sweeter. And you can squeeze them, let them soak in water for a few days, or you can eat them like as a trail nibble. So why don't I take some? So you can eat them, but usually I think people would use them to make a drink. But if you were, they just taste kind of lemony. And if you're really thirsty, out for a walk, they quench the thirst. Yeah, tastes a little sweet, kind of lemony. The next berries that you can still find in the winter are the berries from Oregon grape, scientific name Mahonia aquifolium. And I think normally this time of year the berries wouldn't look that shriveled, but I think maybe it has something to do. It was a pretty hard summer, so I don't know. There are less berries and they're pretty dried up. But anyway, you can know it by the spiky leaves, which look like Christmas holly, but it's different. And they're quite leathery, and yeah, they're spiky and shiny. And the leaves actually are also edible. Like the young leaves can be eaten raw, or the older leaves can be cooked. But the berries can be eaten raw, or they could be used in things like jelly, jam, or wine. And they are a little shriveled, and I'm not going to take many because, it was a hard year for all the animals. But I'll try a couple. And actually when they're, because they can be kind of tart, but when they start getting wrinkled like that, that's when they actually, taste sweeter. As I make my way back through the bushes, I'll explain why I thought to make this video. I'm reading Hatchet with my boys, my sons, and in the book, the character Brian, when he first is stranded, and don't tell me what happens in the book, but at the beginning, one of the first things he finds is berries. So, I'm not saying, well, maybe it could be. Maybe this could be useful. Well, okay, it got me thinking. That was in the summer, but what about in the winter? Would there be any berries that we could find around? So then I was like, oh, well, maybe I should find some. So here we are. And the other thing I was thinking, youch, spiky. Can you see? The other thing that I was thinking about that was cool, because one of the first berries that Brian finds, there's a description of them, and it's not entirely clear, but I'm pretty sure it was choke cherries, and I was pretty impressed that one of my sons, Adam, he was able to identify the plant from the description in the book, and that's pretty cool. And I think it's also cool, maybe it's because he was actually in the video that I made about choke cherries some time ago. So if you want to see a cute little Adam talking about choke cherries, I'll put a link to it. Anyway, on to the next berry that you can find in the winter. The next berries that you can still find in the winter, mountain ash, and these ones are western mountain ash, scientific name Sorbus scopulina. You can't tell much about the tree right now because the leaves have fallen, but if you want some more information about how to identify it, I'll link to a video. Now, the mountain ash berries are rich in vitamin C. Some indigenous groups considered them inedible, but they can be eaten. They can be eaten raw, cooked, or dried, and they can be used to do things like make jams or jellies or ale or bittersweet wine. And the berries, they, like when they're first ripe, they're pretty tart, but these have frozen a couple times, so they start to get all dimply and they get sweeter after it freezes a couple times. Here are some of those mountain ash berries. They're all dimply from repeated freezings, so let's give them a shot. I've tried them before when they're not as far into the winter, and these are sweeter. Still not that great though, but maybe in emergency they'd be okay. The next berry you can find in the winter as the sun goes down, creeping juniper, scientific name Juniperus horizontalis, and I'm calling it a berry even though it's technically not a berry because of these little guys. They look like berries and we often call them berries, juniper berries. So they are edible. You can eat them as a trail nibble. Some indigenous groups ate them in small amounts and they were thought to help suppress appetite. They have a flavor that people would recognize, some people might recognize as like the gin flavor. But they can be used to add to things like meats, like say fish or wild game or other meats into a marinade, or to add flavor as you cook. You could put them in a pepper mill, grind them up. And a word of warning, large amounts can cause convulsions, kidney failure, and irritation to the digestive system. And pregnant women should not have juniper. But I'm not pregnant, so I'm going to try some. I think they're pretty good. They do taste bitter, a little sweet. They really, if I'm out walking or something, I like them because they do, I think, suppress appetite and also moisten. So if you're thirsty or have dry mouth, they're nice. Now the fifth berry that I commonly find in the winter, that you can still find in the winter, common snowberry, scientific name Symphoracarpus albus. And as you look at these berries, you might be thinking, those look pretty poisonous. Well, if you are thinking that, you'd be right, because they are. They're mildly poisonous and in large quantities can be toxic. The branches, leaves, and roots are also poisonous. They can cause vomiting, diarrhea, depression, and sedation. Some indigenous groups believed they were ghosts of Saskatoon berries and part of the spirit world, not to be eaten by the living. And in some indigenous languages, they were called corpse berries or ghost berries. Let's see, we give them a try. No, maybe not. So those are our 5 berries you can still find in the winter. 4 you can eat, 1 do not eat. And if maybe there's some other berries in your area that you can still find in the winter, let me know. Maybe make a comment. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.